It is really important for us to understand the Philippine architecture since it influenced our society and culture. We believe that the history of architectures bridge the gap between the bygone eras and the present day, which since the beginning of time each civilization of different eras formed unique style based on its religious beliefs, philosophies, and social needs.
Philippine architecture reflects the historical and cultural traditions in the country. Austronesian, Chinese, Spanish, and American architectures influenced the most prominent historic structures in the archipelago. Pre-Hispanic era. Caves and rock shelters like the Tabon Cave in Palawan served as shelter for the early Filipinos and the earliest records of pre-colonial architecture in the Philippines. Even before the Spanish colonization, houses were predominantly rectangular structures, elevated and stealth foundations that it could be lifted and transported to a new location. Houses were made of wood, bamboo, pugon or dried grass, and nipa palm called the bahay kubo or nipa hut. Moreover, some natives built tree houses to protect themselves against their enemies and attacks of wild animals. Climate and topography are the factors that influence the materials and outline of houses, like for example, of those pre-Spanish houses from Ifugao, the Bahay Kubo or Nipa hut, from the lowlands, and the Maranao's very intricate Turugan house. Pre-Spanish mosques emerged as Islam was established in Sulu in 14th century and in Mindanao 15th century. So, during pre-Hispanic era, Filipinos rely on nature that they mostly lived in caves. They hunt or even fishing as their source of food. However, Filipinos in pre-Hispanic era did not settle on permanent structures as they jumped into one place to another since they were looking for food. But because of the development of tools during this era, they learned on how to create permanent structures to be their home. They built houses like, for example, Bahay Kubo that can be lifted and can be transported into a new location. It is well made of light materials like wood, bamboo, kugon, and nipa palm, with its walls are low and the floor was raised a few feet above.
Forward on the Spanish colonial era. During the Spanish colonial era, Bahay Kubo was improved into Bahay na Bato that consisted of stronger materials made in most cases of stones and preserved the design of open ventilation and elevated apartments. Other version of this will be constructed of a stone or brick, supported lower level and hardwood in upper level, covered by tiles or in later cases galvanized iron. The Bahay na Bato is not foreign, and that despite its foreign influences, it stems and identifies as Filipino. The Bahay na Bato is a Filipino structure developed during the Spanish colonial era, adapted from the local Bahay Kubo as evidenced by its skeletal structure being a house on stilts. As the Spaniards brought the European architecture to the Philippines, the friars built opulent Baroque-style churches, structures that some still exist nowadays, and also symbolize the primary legacy of Spain to the Filipino. As you can see of the picture, this is the example of Baroque-style church. The opulence of these buildings is visible in the ornate facades, paintings, and sculptures, as well as in behavioral pattern of people in the intricate rituals associated with Roman Catholic churches. Some of the best preserved colonial churches in the country were found in the Ilocos provinces of Laguna and Batangas, as well as in Iloilo, Panay, and Cebu and Bohol. In Manila, similar structure include to the Paco Park, Ilocos Norte, Ateneo Municipal, University of Santo Tomas, Colegio de San Juan de Letran, and Hospital de San Juan de Jesus. The Spanish colonial period also brought military architecture, as seen in the fortifications developed like the Intramuros in Manila. It is a defensive network composed of revealing and bulwarks to protect the Spanish city.
American and Japanese era. After the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1898 came a new breed of architectural structures that led to the construction of government buildings. It resembled Greek or Roman architecture like the post office building and the legislative house. The 1930s marked the advent of Spanish-style house that is characterized with tile roofs, arcs, and the indispensable three-story tower. The suburban house called chalet, as it was a simple, respectable house for those moving up to the middle class. During the 1940s, the Japanese occupation did not bring any architectural change as were devoted in the construction and rehabilitation of the structures damaged by war. Up to the 1950s, Art Deco buildings remained dominant. That includes the Post Office Building, Legislative House, FEU Building in Manila, Perez Samanillo Building in Escolta, Avenue Theater and Hotel Building, Quezon Institute Building, Crystal Arcade, Light and Times Theater, Old Jaro Municipal Hall in Iloilo, and the Central Seminar of the University of Santo Tomas. It was restricted before by the ordinance to only have a 10-stories building, but since the development of Makati, high-rising buildings have exceeded.
The late 20th century. Tropical modern architecture is manifested in the presence of solar control devices such as sunshade, which is prominent in the tropics, and slight domestic touches in design among the tropical areas. Mostly modernist architects were hesitant to design a pitch roof, which was thought of as a kind of hallmark of modern design. They preferred butterfly roof, which had no traditional original context. The pitch roof has had its honor restored from the late 50s onward. So in the late 20th century, modern architecture with straight lines and sectional aspect was introduced, particularly in the brutalist architecture that characterized government-built structures than in the Marxist period. During this period, many of the older structures fell into decay due to imposition of material law. After the return of democracy in 1986, a new age of Philippine architecture came into focus through modernism. Early in the 21st century, a revival of the respect for the traditional Filipino elements in the architecture returned. A new form of Philippine architecture emerged with Filipination of architecture in 1970s. Bahay Kubo and Bahay na Bato became popular forms to be copied and modernized, such as the Batasang Pamansa and the National Theater.
The New Millennium. New Millennium or the modern period. Today's Philippine architecture is a product of natural development that has been enhanced by the infiltration of several influences. It evolved from the pre-colonial influences of our close neighbors such as the Malay people and persisted through Spanish colonial times, the American Commonwealth era, and current times. Buildings like the Magsaysay Memorial, Twin Towers, Pacific Plaza, Meralco, National Press Club, and many others showcase current Philippine architecture. Leandro Locsin, Ildefonso P. Santos, Pablo Antonio, Juan Nakpil, and Francisco Mausa are the top 5 Filipino architects who have made significant contributions to the profession of architecture in the Philippines. Throughout its history, the architecture of the nation has changed and developed into something more solid and durable. Caves and rock shelters give way to Bahay Kubo, Bahay na Bato, and eventually the structures and contemporary homes we see today. The structures that we have inherited from other regions reflect their cultures in every way. Moreover, Philippine history resulted in a variety of architectural styles that are still in use today.